Okay, so let's just all get on the same page. Basically, Kabbalah is the deepest part of the Torah, which explains the secrets of life for all souls of humanity. The word Kabbalah means to receive. So the idea of it is that our souls came to this world to receive all the pleasure, all the happiness, all the joy. Unfortunately, it seems like it's the opposite of that. Most people feel disconnected, feel unhappy, feel anxious, feel out of control, and have a litany of problems they don't know what to do with. So Kabbalah gives you the system of what we need to do to ourselves to be able to be a vessel to receive, whether that's love, financial security, personal inner peace. Kabbalah covers all of it. When I teach courses, people coming from every type of religion, every type of spiritual background, usually they dabble in things, they reach a point where they want more, and Kabbalah brings it all together. Okay, so that's the short of what Kabbalah is. The main thing that we want to talk about today is that the idea that we're all vessels that receive what's called the light of the Creator. So we have the light, and the light represents all the fulfillment, and then there's us, we're trying to receive this light. By connecting with the light force, darkness goes away. So whatever problem you have in your life, it goes away not by trying to solve the problem, because you're dealing with the symptom, not the root. It deals with connecting to the light force. What religion has done is distorted how you do that. And that's why people are very cynical about religion and about God and about how to connect to it. So Kabbalah kind of takes us back to the pure understanding of how do you connect with the light. The way you connect with the light is by acting like the light. It's really that simple. It sounds good, very hard in practice. So as you've learned and you've seen, that as soon as you walk out those doors, you get hit with types of challenges that you forget about anything besides, how do I just remove my pain? So everything that you're learning and that we will talk about today is how we can act like the light so that our vessel can have affinity of form with the light, and that's how you receive the light. And all problems go away. Every single problem you have, even if you think it's impossible, my kid's this way, there's no way to solve it, my husband's like that, he's been that way for 20 years, all that stuff is just nonsense. I've seen in one day problems that people thought were impossible, because as soon as you turn on the light, the darkness goes away. How it goes, where it goes, we don't need to be busy with that. That's why Kabbalah is so powerful. All we need to focus on is how to connect with the light. So it's that simple. So that's the background. All right, so you want to talk about patience?
No, I'm just talking about patience in general, not towards husband, kids. Just being a patient person.
Okay, so why do you want to...
Which I think I am, but sometimes I get tested.
So give me an example of when you get tested. Or anybody can chime in.
Go ahead.
Are you talking about time?
No.
Oh, okay. Patience about like being lenient with time because
No.
it gets you anxious. Okay.
No, I'm just
that's my
talking about
issue.
Yeah, no, share your issue. By the way, it takes a couple minutes to get warmed up, but feel free to just throw out what it is that you're struggling with the most. And you'll see that everyone's dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
For me, the patience is like, I run out of patience really easily is when I feel like I have to keep repeating myself.
To people?
To people. I'm like, I feel like I should say it 1 or 2 times, and it's like, when I feel like I have to keep saying it over and over like a broken record, it like aggravates me. For me, that triggers me.
Can you give me an example? Who is it that's not listening?
Not everybody. like I'll have to say like 4 different ways to my mom. Like she'll ask a question and I'll answer it. And then it's like, or mostly probably my kids that I have to repeat myself most with. But I understand that this is going to keep happening until
what?
Until I get the patience to be able to let it not trigger me when I have to keep repeating it. So once I start reacting to the repetition, it's probably going to resolve itself with everyone, because I know I'm experiencing it with more than one person. So there's something that's creating that in my life right now.
You brought up your mom asking the same questions.
Right. Yeah.
Can you give an example of what she does?
It's something so simple. Like she'll say, okay, where are you going? And I'll say, I'm going here. And then she'll say, okay, so can you come to my house right now. No, I just said I'm going here. No, I just have to keep her, like, I feel like she's not listening to what I'm saying.
Is there sometimes that people are also trying to take your energy, or like?
Do I feel that way?
Yes.
Yes, I feel like it's draining me.
Okay. Do you all feel like there's people always trying to suck your energy and take your energy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Not as much.
Anymore.
Not as
I
much.
set boundaries.
You set boundaries. Okay, but it was
Talk about adults or children?
Children,
Anything.
adults.
anything. Do you feel like you're drained of your energy? Okay. So there's two things I'll say about that. Number one is, on a surface level, any area that you're weak in, you will, by universal law, you have to be tested in that area to strengthen it. So if you, for example, feel like you are needy about something, or you need someone's approval, or you're worried about something, or you're anxious about something, that's the very area where people will challenge you. And the minute you no longer are needy of it, then you can receive it. So you're not allowed to receive something you're needy of. This is just a rule.
But isn't it what you're giving power to also? You're taking the power.
When you're needy, yes. So when you're needy, essentially what you're saying is, if I need this to be happy, and if I don't have it, I'm not happy, right? So the problem with that is, if you receive it, you'll destroy yourself, because you're not going to ever find what your real light is, who you are, because you're using it as a crutch. In life, we're not allowed to take energy from things. And this actually happens most with kids. This is why we all panic most with our kids. And that's why there's going to be most problems with the kids, because we're most needy about who our kids are, how they turn out, how they're going to act, what the influences are around them. And that's why it's the hardest spiritual work. So, and you'll see that most successful people in whatever department in life, they're always not needy in that department, right? So it's like, imagine you talk to a person who it's easy for them to make money. And I remember talking to a guy like this once, where he always, everything he touched turned to gold. And I said to him, I was once at his house, and his beautiful house, it was the East Coast. I said, this is such a beautiful property you have here in the Hamptons. I said, what would happen if your whole business, you lost everything, and then you lost the house? I just asked him this question. So he looked at me and he said, what's the problem? We just rebuild it. And it was so casual. It was almost like, it's a game. It was a game to him. And because his happiness wasn't dependent on that, he was a channel of it. So when your happiness is dependent on something, you can no longer receive it. And that's why there's a tension. And there's a problem there. So the question is, where are we dependent on things? Because that's where there's going to be the most darkness and chaos. That's where you're going to have the most tests.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If our happiness depends on our kids,
Yeah.
you know really well. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like.
yeah.
And we're struggling to keep them happy.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we're feeling affecting them?
Completely. Were you here?
I was.
You were here,
I was.
right? I mean, it was crazy to hear.
Yeah.
Because I
I'm
asked,
Maya's mom. You might put.
who wasn't here?
Lots.
Okay, so what we did is we lined up all the teens, we lined up all the moms, and each teen had to say, what do we ask them? What could you, what?
What can
Yeah, what
their
can your
mom work
mom
on?
do for you to be
be
able to
happy.
practice what you learned in your Kabbalah?
That's right. Because these kids are learning this amazing content, but if they go home and the parents are reactive, it's not setting the right environment for the kids. So each, in a brilliant fashion, each child basically said, yeah, well, my mom, and hit your like negativity like this, like a dagger. My mom's always over worrying, and if she, it's like my mom's like beating herself up all day long. So it's kind of like you see right away that us not transforming and elevating is suffocating the kids spiritually, and so it's causing all these complexes and all these different things, right?
My question for you is,
Yeah.
how do you stop worrying about your child? Like my constant day-to-day thing is worried about how is their day? What are we gonna do tomorrow? Where are we gonna take them next? How am I gonna this and how am I gonna that? It's this constant thing. How do you stop that?
The reason why we worry about our kids is because we have a belief system that by worrying about them, we love them. So the more, and this is a Persian thing, if I worry about you, that is a sign that I love you. And especially this generation, they take it as the exact opposite. They take it as you're attacking them. You're attacking their freedom. You don't trust them. You don't believe in them. I don't. You know, there's this Hoffman concept where every child either will become like their parents or they become the opposite of their parents. Right? So look at your child. They're looking at you. They're like, okay, this woman, is she what I want to grow up to be? Some parts yes, some parts they reject completely. What every child will be inspired by is a mom that doesn't love through worry, because it's also selfish. You don't really care. You care about yourself, right? It's not real care. Because if we really care about our child, we care about them like without any agenda. Meaning, if I wasn't your mom, what would I want for you? Like, what would I bet we would give better advice to other kids, right? If someone else's son came to you and said, what do I do about school? You would sit there and be like, you know what? You should enjoy yourself, have fun, don't beat yourself up too much. If it was your kid, you'd be like, you'd all of a sudden have an agenda. So you're not a channel of the light anymore. So the problem is the agenda. When we have agenda, we're not channeling the light, we're channeling manipulation mixed with some concepts we learned, with some maybe care, with our own comfort, and it's too much. So what I try to do, and it's not easy, and I have younger kids, but I'm always trying to, it's two things. One is trying to take a step back and be like, okay, I have no idea how to parent this child. I have no idea who his soul is, what he needs, what he's gonna be. If I didn't know Kabbalah, I'd want him to do what I do. I'm trying to make him successful, putting on all this weird pressure. What if that's not right? So I'm trying to take a step back. And this is what the first class is of Kabbalah 1, which is pause. All the time pause. Pause before you talk to your children. Pause before you react to your children. Pause before you give something to your children. Just pause and say, okay, what does this soul need? Not what does my child need? What does this soul need? And just by doing that, you create a space that the light of the Creator will come in. The other thing I'll tell you, which is a deeper concept, is we all should be praying and talking to the Creator and saying, I have no idea how to parent, and I don't want my issues getting involved and hurting my child. Guide me, show me, give me the right words. All the time we need to let go and ask for the higher power to speak through us. And what will happen is, the truth is, that's what you want your child to do, right? Imagine your child had a bad day at school, comes home, and they says to your mom, look, I had a bad day at school, so this is what I did. I just paused. And I said, I'm not gonna react to this. I asked my higher power, my higher soul, what should I do? I don't wanna hurt anybody. I don't wanna have manipulation. And I just asked for help. You would be proud of your child. You'd be like, wow, yes, it's exactly what to do. What if your child came home and said, Mom, something happened, so I'm just worrying about it. So I know that if I worry about it enough, it's all gonna get better. So I'm gonna really just beat myself up and spread myself thin and just have anxiety about it. And I can't talk right now because I gotta go study and I gotta work and I wanna do it. Don't talk to me in the room. I'm gonna go on, we'll do it till 3 a.m. because I'm gonna fix the problem. You would freak out. But that's how we solve problems, right? So the purpose of a class like this, or regularly, it's really good that you get together regularly because we're conditioned to be the opposite, and coming to a class, it conditions us so we feel good, and then all of a sudden we go back to who we were. The point of a class like this is realize all that matters is I'm a role model of acting like the light. That's it. Nothing else really matters. The children are smart enough to pick up on that. Your husbands are going to look at you and they're going to feel like something so powerful. And they're going to want whatever it is that you're doing and the way you're acting, because you're also not reacting to the husband. Right? So what are some ways that you react to the husband? or to your partner. Is everybody married, not married? Is anybody not married? Everyone's married. Okay. So I can just go down that path. How do you guys react to your...
Defensive.
Give me more. Give me the meat.
The meat. When it comes down to like child rearing, disciplining, not that I like to say we play the blame game, but we always are very good at telling each other what the other person can do better.
To raise the children.
Yeah.
What is something your husband does that you disagree with?
The way I feel like the way he communicates with my kids is harsh, especially with my older one.
So he's more
But this
hard.
is
He's
what-
more hard on your child.
He's less patient, therefore he's more harsh. And I feel like he has like kind of like maybe like an old school mentality.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's a boy. You gotta be tough with him. You gotta this that. But he doesn't understand the power. I mean, the power that he would have if he just changed his communication with him.
And your husband, what's his name?
Shaheen.
Shaheen. What's his love language? How does he like
Respect.
to be? When he receives respect,
Yes.
he feels. So what does he want most from you?
To be more on his side.
To be more on his side.
To be more on his side.
All right. So this is actually a very common thing with men.
This was exactly my example.
Mine.
Yours too.
I feel like it's a constant in our house, constant. They're fighting all day, and I keep saying, you know, it's okay. It's gonna get better. Relax. Talk to him. Don't yell at him. There's no screaming.
If I heard that as a husband, that
You
would
would get-
make me worse.
Really?
That would make me worse.
It's so
Don't
interesting
involve
because
me.
my
And I'll tell you
husband
why.
is opposite.
Yeah,
How's your
mine
husband?
too.
He's more quiet.
He's the more quiet, way more patient than I am.
I can
I
I'm
so
the
see
one
that.
who's like, I have a 3-year-old who's testing everything
Yeah.
right now. I'm like, tell her she can't spill, you know, her cup of, and he's like, it's okay, she's a baby. I'm like, she's not a baby, she's 3. You know, it's
I
like,
feel like there's always that balance.
Yeah, there's these are the two types of men.
Yeah,
There's
also
a-
between
so-
couples.
Sometimes good cup, bad cup.
We're like you guys.
So who has the husband who's more, in Donna's case? Okay. Who's got
Mine is
the
both.
the more quiet, patient, spiritual?
You're missing one, David.
What's the third kind? What's in
One
between?
is in between.
All right, I want to hear about it. Tell me. What's in between? Tell me.
Starts off like Donna's husband,
Start soft.
like Donna's husband, and then once he connects,
Uh-huh.
it goes
Connects to who?
to the child.
Okay.
Then I'm like, did you tell her? Did you tell her you can't have your phone past midnight? No, I understood. We spoke. It's good now. I told her 1 more hour. And I'm like, but I appreciate it because it's a connection and it's their connection.
That's really great though. The listening
Yeah,
is what
connecting.
I really would want, is just to hear
It
what
doesn't
they
happen
have
all
to
the
say.
What do you want?
I would like him to listen
To the child.
why they're doing that and then make judgment. I think that
All right, I'm gonna.
there's a 4th type.
What's the fourth thing?
the one that didn't come there.
No, like my husband tells me you gotta be political in this situation.
Oh my God, more down.
What is political?
You have to be assertive at the same time be loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my husband.
Yeah, that is.
Okay.
Can we talk about the?
There's only. By the way, I'm gonna tell you right now. There's only one thing your husbands want. There's only one thing your husbands want, and most husbands don't get it.
What is it?
I'm gonna tell you in a second. But what did you want to say?
No, can we address the mom that acts like the dad?
Can you explain? Can you explain that? What's the mom that acts like
The
that?
bad cop. The other side.
Where the bad cop.
Where the bad cop. And then they chant, I hate mom.
No, because it becomes
7 o'clock this morning.
She's
in
right.
bed.
It becomes mommy says no, mommy sets the
Yeah,
boundaries.
you have to set the
mommy-
boundaries.
Mommy's the bad
Sorry, I'm
cop,
being so
and-
selfish in the man's world.
And I understand what she's saying, and daddy will buy everything you put in your Amazon cart, you know? Regardless if you have 7 soccer balls, he'll buy you the 8th one.
That's right.
So,
That's good.
Okay.
Okay. So this is it. Every man, whether it's one of the 4 types or 5 types, every man becomes imbalanced when he feels that you care about the kids more than him.
Yeah, I have that too.
Whether that imbalance is jealousy, control, being overly aggressive. And every child becomes imbalanced when they see that mom and dad aren't coming first. Okay, so that's, and especially the dads that are punishing the children or being overly aggressive with the children, it's because they are actually competing for your attention. More attention. But basically, every man just wants one thing: to be trusted. They want you to trust him and believe in him. And when you don't believe in your man, totally destabilizes it. Whether he says it or doesn't say it, all his issues come up in his childhood. What heals a man is when his wife believes in him and trusts him. And you actually have to say it to him. You have to say, and you have to tell him he's number one.
Like make you believe.
And you have to say it in front of the kids.
So we have to lie?
Huh?
Wait, does that
Lie. You have to find. No, what? No, say it in front of the kids. So I will. By the way, it should go both ways. So I will tell the kids. I will actually look at the kids. I mean, they're young. My kids are 4, 3, and 1. But I look at the kids and I'll tell them. I say, you know, the most important person to me in my life is your mom, not you. I don't say the not you part. I don't say the not. But and you know what? You know how they react to that every time? A smile. But if they and it has to do with a lot of Kabbalah because there's 10 dimensions of light, and it's a little deeper. But the idea is that the higher lights represent like the father and the mother, and then it feeds into the energy of the children. And when the parent is more spending time or thinking about the child, then the dimensions are all off. So it's like the universe is exploding, and the kids are energetic. They're not getting the energy. Kids only get energy when mom and dad are on the same page and appreciate each other and love each other. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because I don't know what's happening in our dynamic then. Because I feel like I am happiest when my husband puts the kids before me.
Mm-hmm.
But he also says he likes it when I put the kids before him too. So what does that mean about our dynamic?
Yeah,
Like,
that's something we got to look into. We have to ask why, right? You have to ask him and say, look, by the way, that's not a problem, but basically what you're telling him is, look, you are the most important person to me, and the fact that makes you happy, I will do that. But I'm not making my kids number one. I'm taking care of my kids first because I know this is most important to you, and you're number one. Right? So that's really what's happening. But it's important to keep reminding each other of that because that's what gets lost. And then everybody starts doing their own thing, and then that's when the relationship becomes like whatever.
So you tell your kids your father is most important to me?
I say, I just want you to know the most important person in my life is your father.
My kids would
What would they say?
not be okay with that.
What would they say?
They have to be okay.
Wait,
Or vice versa.
let's go into it. How old are your kids?
11, 8, and 3.
Okay, what would
Like,
they say?
No, they would feel like what we're not important.
You're very important.
So why would you say daddy's more important?
Because he is. Because I love daddy.
Because
So
without
why
daddy, I wouldn't have you.
And you know what? I would tell them. I would say, when you grow up, I want to make sure.
And my kids are 5.
I would make sure. By the way, it's part of the training, right? I would make because when they grow up, what do you want? What's going to bring more joy to you when your kid is putting their spouse first, or their kids first, or even you first?
I don't know, just to me it feels like, of course my husband's number one, but like to verbalize, well, my kids are also number one. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I feel like my husband can, like, I don't see it as a pyramid where he's here and then they're here and then, I see it as they're one. Like, my kids need me and they're my number one priority, and my husband's also mine and number one.
I understand. But that, what I'm explaining is universal law from an energy point of view. That's not how it works. So let's say your child grows up and is getting married, and what's your 11-year-old's name? Ashton. So let's say Ashton comes to you and says, "Mom, I'm getting married to Julie, and but you know what? We have kids. Let's say but the kids are probably even more important to me than my wife. Maybe equal, maybe more important. Something about that doesn't feel energetically right. It denotes an escape. Because here's the thing, the more you invest in the seed level, the seed then can nourish the branches and the fruit. Okay? When we water a plant, we don't spray the fruit, right? Imagine you have an apple tree. We're not spraying the apple. We're always going to the root to nourish the root. We're not spraying the branches or the trunk.
And that makes a lot of sense to me, but in my mind, I feel like the 11-year-old needs me to nourish him and take care of him.
I understand.
And he's an adult.
But by the way, when I'm feeding the root, listen, when I'm feeding the root, nobody cares about the root, really. But you have to feed the root first. We care about what this looks like. But if you try to, what you're saying is, look, no, this is your daughter. I want to feed her first. So you put all the water here. All that's going to happen to this, everything dies.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. But that's actually how it works. Now, it's less about what you say to your kids. It's more about when you start to believe how important it is, you actually realize that your husband blooms. Because, men are also good with compartmentalizing and suppressing, and some men have other outlets, without freaking you out. Men find a way to function.
Yeah.
Okay? If you don't give them energy, they'll find it somewhere. Okay? Not to make you uncomfortable.
No.
That's a separate discussion, right? I don't think, we just have to be realistic.
We take care of them, they take care of us. If they're happy, they make us happy.
Yeah, by the way, they'll want to come home faster. They'll want to not. I know men that are comfortable going on trips for 2 weeks, and I think to myself, 2 weeks? But there are men that feel uncomfortable leaving one day, right? So it's, what you will see is that the energy in the whole house elevates when you do this.
So can you be a little more specific
Yes.
about how to water the roots, as you call it?
Okay, I'll tell you. Constant compliments. Every little thing they do, acknowledge it.
Even when they annoy the producer.
That's like feeding his ego. Constantly giving compliment, giving surveys, 24 hours,
You're giving,
four of them.
you're giving,
But no one giving anything.
no one's giving you.
Seriously, from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10
All
o'clock.
right. Let's hang on. Hold on. Let's dissect the situation. It's practical.
Okay.
Who wants to dissect? You want to dissect your situation? Okay, let's dissect your situation.
It's not that I want to complain or I'm not happy about it, but I feel like I'm the one who's 24/7 giving service to 4 of them.
What? Giving service. Explain what you mean by giving service.
Compliment.
Give me an example of a compliment you recently gave your husband.
My kids 24/7. I love you. Wow, you did a great
Not your
job.
kids. Your
My
husband.
husband. Oh wow, honey, you look handsome today. I like the way you dress.
And?
Say, thank you, honey.
He says thank you.
Yeah.
And he appreciates it.
Of course.
Okay, what's the issue?
The issue is why they don't do anything.
He doesn't compliment you?
I mean, sometimes, yeah, but not all the time.
My roots. That's the question. I think what she's getting at is if he's got one root,
What about me? I have a root too.
You have a root too.
All
right, hold on. We're talking about two separate things. First, we're talking about how to give. We want to talk about how to receive.
Yeah.
It's the second topic. But let's first talk about the give. You have a healthy relationship with your husband?
Yeah.
Okay. So by the way, part of all these things you're doing might actually be why you have a healthy relationship. Because if he's not getting a compliment from you, he's going to work, and his 26-year-old secretary, who's just bubbly and happy and fun, will say, by the way. No, she won't say that. She'll be like, I love those shoes. And he'll be like, thank you. And that's it. But my point is, the void was filled. Not that he would even do anything, but there's a void that he has, because all men want to know that they can give. And when you tell them that they have power, they feel like, oh, I am great. I can give. Like, sometimes we've lost respect and appreciation for all the amazing things that they did and they were and all these things. Like, this is what I've seen most. Men who talk to me about it, if I wash a dish, if I put a dish in the sink and not on the counter, and my wife comes to me like, thank you for putting it in the sink because we don't want ants. I'd be like, all right. I feel like, great, I'm ready. I'm ready to go conquer the day. Yeah. So it's kind of like the acknowledgement is important. All right. So that's what I want to say. Now, if you're not receiving, it's only one reason. It's your own belief system about receiving. You may think that it's not good to receive. You may think that you're meant to be a servant. You may think that receiving is bad, receiving causes problems. You saw people who received and bad things happened. Your parents didn't receive and they suffered, and you think that maybe suffering is the way to live a good life. Suffering is a way to be a good role model. It's a suffering mentality. That's not her.
No, actually, you know what? One time
we know only she will know herself best.
No, for example, I wear clothes and I said, honey, what do you think of this? She said, honey, you always look beautiful. I don't have to tell you.
Amazing.
So because you always look beautiful, and I always like the way you dress, I wear this and this, but I'm like, I feel like sometimes it's overwhelming for me. The whole day I'm constantly giving or compliment or giving service or everything. Sometimes I feel like I'm overwhelmed.
It could also be the way we give and what we give. Remember, giving, we think giving is like, oh, okay, here you go. Solving people's problems right away. That's not giving either. Right? So I would have to ask you more, and I have to watch what you do. But is your giving also doing something to empower them to feel like they are the light? Right? So what's an example of something you did for your kids lately?
A lot of stuff.
Give me an example.
Cooking, cleaning, buying stuff. I mean,
Okay. And do they help?
They try.
No.
I mean, no.
Be honest.
So. Okay. So how old are they?
17, 14, 11.
Okay. We feel drained from our giving when it enters a black hole. So when do you feel most empowered in your giving? That your giving has continuity. So if you gave something to your child, and then your child said, Mom, wow, thank you for giving to me. I want to do this tomorrow instead of you doing it. Your energy would go through the roof. Right? But we also need to so something that you have to condition kids, especially from an early age, is every time they receive something, every time, a toy, food, whatever, thank you. Right? Thank you, and also thank you to the Creator. Constantly teaching them. This is something I'm practicing, because I've learned it through other parenting, but now that it's real life for me, every night, there's a box of toys. There's like 100 toys, little tiny ones, like insignificant ones. And my 4-year-old will say, can I have a toy? I say, you can absolutely have a toy, but let's talk about what you're gonna do. Okay, let's talk about the earning process. I'll even use words like that. Say, tomorrow morning, you're gonna make sure you say good morning to each person in the house, and I want you to look them in the eye. You promise me you're gonna do that? He looks at the toy, he looks at me, he's like, I can do that. So what happens is in the morning, I walked in, I looked at him, he stood up, and he's like, good morning. Oh, all right, so my point is, yes, I'm bribing him in the beginning, but there's an education process that eventually there's gonna be no toys, and he'll be able to get up. And he'll have self-confidence. So we feel drained when our giving is not creating self-confidence. All your giving has to create self-confidence, which means self-sufficiency. Your giving has to be in mind to create self-sufficiency, because that's the greatest gift you can give someone. So as we learn Kabbalah, it's like, I want to give you tools that you are self-sufficient. When you go out into the world, you'll know how to deal with your opponent. That's the most powerful form of giving. So when people are taking you for granted, it's because you're giving raw energy, and you're not giving it in a way which is very difficult to do. It requires effort. To give in a way that empowers and doesn't remove the desire. Right?
Can you give an example? Because there's
Okay, with
takers.
what kind of relationship? Give me a relationship.
Friends. Talk about
Friends. Let's say like
Spouse.
just
Come on, you know
Like
you're
an
all
we were dealing with spouse for a good 30 minutes.
Yeah. Let's just say friends, for example.
Okay, friends.
You pick up their kid every
pick
day,
up their
you
kid.
take them home, and they just say thank you, and you said the thank you should drive you, but like, okay, it's just a simple thing, but you do it again and again, and they're just takers. They suck your energy.
Well, by the way, I would be more direct with friends and be like, look, I want to have an amazing friendship with you. One that we empower each other, that we have open communication. And again, this is not, my mentors told me, if you have one good friend, you're lucky. Like one friend where there's circuitry. You're not gonna have every single person be your friend in the way you want it to be, right?
I was just giving that as an example, not the spouse. Or
Yeah.
like, you know, when you're a giver, I'm a giver. So when you're a giver, you feel like everyone's kind of like sucking life out of you.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a sibling, it could be your parents, it could be a friend. But when you're giving, you're constantly just giving.
Yeah, and it's not always easy. So I think the answer to this is, do you have a desire that your giving creates circuitry? Because sometimes, here's this, we like,
circuitry.
I'll explain, that whether people give back. Because it's good for them to give back, not because you need. Sometimes we like that people don't give us back so that we can have a narrative that we're a victim.
No.
I know, I'm not saying that you do that.
No,
I know
people who do
you know
that.
people who
That's
do
not
that?
me.
That's not you.
Yeah,
That's not you, but the fact
I
that
do agree with that.
there are people who want to overwhelm you with giving so that they can control you.
Or feel like you owe them.
Yes, you owe me,
Yes.
right? This is all the stuff that we need to cleanse outside of ourselves. The bottom line is, when someone's not giving back, it means that something is wrong with the seed level of our giving. Either we're overgiving, we're giving with an agenda that we're not aware of, we don't have the right belief system about receiving. Maybe we think suffering is good, and we have to admit, all of us, I believe, to some extent, believe that life should be filled with suffering in order to be successful or happy or whatever. This is a cultural thing, and if you're kind of looking your life a little bit, you'll see like, yes, we must suffer. It must be hard. There must be friction to be successful. That's also a false belief system. It doesn't have to be that way. So
But I thought, sorry, that like some of the challenges our soul like receives is because we have a lesson to learn. That's like what I always thought. So shouldn't we be filled with challenges? That's what I keep telling myself.
shouldn't we be filled with challenges? You heard?
Yeah. But shouldn't it be that way? Like everything I'm faced, I've now turned it based on what Sarah says to me, and I think about it, and I'm like, what's the lesson to learn? Like, what am I here to learn from?
You have to be careful about this too, because even as we learn Kabbalah, the negative side will try to use that against you. So there's rules, and it's good. We're talking it out. The rules are that challenge is not the right word. There's opportunities for growth. Right? So for example, one teen was telling me that he's getting bullied in school. He's 13 years old. So what do you do about that? How do you get the bullying to stop? Besides the telling people about it and asking for help, what does he do internally? Internally, he has to look at it as the Creator is sending the opportunity that this is positive. Even if I don't know why it's positive yet, I have to train my brain that this is positive. It's a way for me to grow. It's a way for me to learn lessons. It's a way for me to have more self-esteem. But if in his mind, he thinks that this is bad, he's a victim, he's training his body to be traumatized by it also. And then he's gonna have problems his whole life. In fact, there's a lot of programs out there now that try to reverse the way you thought about abuse when it happened. Right? So the person will think, I was abused, and I was this, and I was it. And then the coach will say, no, you weren't abused. And actually try to reframe it so that you're not telling yourself this story your whole life and then looking for energy in improper ways. So when it comes to looking inside and what we need to change, the Kabbalists are very specific about it. You need to pick a time that you sit down and proactively choose to look at what you need to change. As opposed to throughout the day, always thinking, what do I need to change? Because you're drawing a lot of judgment when you're asking that question, and you need to just pick a proactive time that you choose it. So for example, if the thoughts come to you that you need to change, it's not good. You need to choose the time of saying, all right, what do I need to work on now? Does that make sense? Because otherwise you're going to be beating yourself up all day. And that is the energy we don't want.
Did that answer what you were saying?
A little bit. I mean, I don't feel like I'm beating myself up when I question things. I feel like I'm learning.
Can I rephrase? Tell me if I'm saying it right. That you're saying that things happen in our lives as challenges, and we have that in order to earn and to grow.
Yes.
And through those challenges, you feel some suffering. And if I understand what David is saying, he's saying, don't look at it as suffering. Those things are going to happen. It doesn't have to be like a punishment suffer kind of a situation. It's an opportunity for growth.
I see both of you saying, but a lot of the things like good, bad, whatever happens, bad things happen. I didn't take it as I'm suffering. I really didn't. I was like, okay, I just questioned it. Like, why is this happening? Let's roll with it, and let's learn from it.
Well, let me try to elevate even the question a little bit, which is, what's the difference between us and Elon Musk? Elon Musk thinks that going from here to Mars is as easy as we think it is to drink a cup of tea. He thinks it's easy. Now, if I said, let's go to Mars, you'd be like, what? How would you even do such a thing? That sounds impossible. Something about his belief system actually makes his reality have less the universe will support him to achieve his objective with less friction. Everything we experience in our lives has to do with what our belief system is about it. So if you have challenges all day, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, on one hand, yes, there are opportunities to grow, of course, but there's actually another path that you can get to the same place without all the challenges. And it all depends on what you believe needs to happen for you to become the best version of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but some people think, I might think something's not a challenge, but isn't it all about your perspective and not the way you
your
address
belief
it?
system, that's
I
correct.
think it has to also do with your experiences, like what Sarah and we talked about, like when we had little kids, newborns, we thought it was the hardest thing
Hardest thing
we
in the
ever
world.
had to experience, and now that we're like past that stage in our life, I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, that was not hard. This is so much harder.
And this is even
So
harder.
it's just like where your soul or who you are has grown, right? Like how you've grown, and that's how you interpret how challenging something is to you.
But a lot of times, like, and you brought it up last night, like, so reactive is very much in my life, and I've taken steps to tone things down. So like traumatic things, like things can happen to me and I would go crazy or whatever, but I try to really pause, breathe through it, and not think until I really fully understand the situation. So
Sure.
I think the meditation or Kabbalah, all these things, the patience, you're just testing yourself every day. I've never thought about sitting down at a certain time. I really like that idea. Because my brain is constantly, I don't know if everyone else is like, it's like thinking and thinking. It's like never, it's hard to slow down.
That's right.
So when we slow down, we see things a little bit differently is what I'm understanding.
So I want to say two things. One is, for all of us, just practically, this is the table stakes right now, which is something challenging happens, or something positive happens that pulls you in. Just pause.
Right.
And the pause is important because that's the space you create for the creator to come in and help guide you as to what to do. You actually have to visualize and kind of know that that's happening. Because other practices say pause, but they don't introduce the creator part. And you have to have the consciousness, okay, the light can now come in and guide me and show me. So that's just table stakes. We should always be doing that. The other thing I want to just put out there is, imagine all of us today were reborn. Forget about your past. You met your husband today for the first time. You met your kids today for the first time. And you didn't carry all the baggage and all the belief systems and all the passive judgments that we have about our lives. This is something that's like so important. I want us to be able to clean all of that out. When you go home, you have to come with like This is the mentality. You just got out of prison. Imagine you just got out of prison. And you came home and you saw your kids and you saw your husband. Huh?
I'm like, some people would run back to me. I'm not speaking of myself.
Yeah.
Others.
That's a different class. But there's this feeling of appreciation, right? And the only reason we don't have appreciation is because we just get lost in the busyness of life, and it takes you, and that takes you, and this takes you. I'm sorry? Oh my gosh, routine is so something that's also really I want each of you to think about this week is how do you clear, it's going to sound really almost impossible, but if you have a belief system about it, you'll get it, it'll happen. How can you clear 20% of your time? Literally free time, 20%, where you're talking to the Creator, you're learning, you're cleaning your mind. You're working on yourself so that you can show up with the highest vibration possible. Don't want to show up, with a low vibration, and you're not going to be able to give. So you have to really take the time. 20% of your time has to be devoted to whatever works for you. That could be the gym, it could be a run, it could be the beach, it could be whatever. But to invest in getting your consciousness to a place of appreciation and not reacting, right? And this is the way you're going to elevate everybody around you. Your husband, your kids, they will be like, what is going on? You're gonna feel this energy from you. And that's the first step. That's really the first step. So let's summarize some of the stuff we learned. What's the most important thing to the husband? Well, compliments. Compliments is the
priority.
Trust.
Yes, trust and support. If your husband, every man wants to know that he's a channel of energy, right? If you ever make fun of his job or something like that, it's crushing. Every man wants to know that he's a giver and he's there needs to be that in there. Compliments, very important. Acknowledging everything you want him to keep doing, keep complimenting. Do you respect your husband? Very important you ask yourself that. And if you don't respect them, what can you do to awaken the appreciation and the respect? Because you're not going to give to someone you don't respect. You're going to always try to take from and be passive aggressive and make comments.
How do you learn to ask a question about that? Sorry, because I just feel like I respect my husband in so many ways.
Yes.
So many ways.
And he knows it.
And he knows it. But there's when it comes to the kids, for example, I don't know about you moms, but I try to read about books of being a great parent, and I go to seminars and listen to therapists talk about how to talk to your kids, and then he doesn't, right? And then his reaction to the kids, sometimes I'm worried that's our biggest thing. I'm worried that he's gonna mess up everything I work so hard to teach the kids. It's opposite, his reaction and everything like that.
So what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
Well, I'm afraid that he's gonna scar them in some way, he's gonna teach them to react that way when I've worked so hard.
Okay.
To
So
teach them
your
how to.
fear that that's gonna happen is what will most likely make that happen. So you have to now let go, right? You did your max effort. Now you got to step back and say, Creator, this is your children. By the way, if they're meant to be scarred, because that's part of their spiritual process, you have to also let go. And it's very hard. What I'm saying is very hard, but if you helicopter this situation, you're going to hurt everybody. So you give, and then you step back. Then you give, and and as soon as you feel you have anxiety, you let go. But why do you let go? Because then the Creator comes in. Because what is going to protect your children is not your...
Right, being worried.
Yeah, that we have a belief system about it. And I'm not saying it's easy. I agree that saying it is different than living it. But what I want you to know is, as soon as you have anxiety about the kids, anxiety about anything, it's a sign to step back and allow the situation to, the light to come in. And actually, the light coming in will elevate the experience better than you could do. So what, are you afraid that your husband's going to say something, whatever? You know what? Let go. Restrict. Push it away. If he's meant to destroy everything, let him destroy everything.
But it's all my hard work.
Oh, I see all my hard work. You see all your hard work.
You don't want to mess it.
By the way, if you went out to tea with one of your mom friends and they were saying it to you, that they do that, you would be like, Janet, let go.
Because we all have a Janet.
Everyone has a Janet. Janet, let go, Janet. Do we have a Janet in here?
No.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
I totally understand that, and a lot of the work we do very similar work. If you can focus on, and tell me what you think about this, all the qualities that you love about your husband, and really vibe in that energy space when you're nervous about doing everything right, you can pull forward and draw forward from him the things that you want your children to see in him, right? So like, if you spend like a few minutes when you're in that state, or even before, and you're like, what are the most amazing qualities about my husband, right? Because you married him for a reason. You know, he's a great human. He has a lot to offer your family. So try to step away from that, like, constricted role that you're trying so hard to push through your kids, and just say, what are the values my husband brings to the table? And like meditate and like swim in that, and then he will feel that, right? Like the energy you're calling forward in him are all the things your kids need from him.
This is 100% accurate. And actually what I would say, I didn't want to say this now because I didn't want to like muddy too many concepts, but the tool that the Kabbalah suggests is, if your husband is doing something that is genuinely worrying you, having positive thoughts about him like that for sure is going to diffuse the situation. But also, add to that, talk to the Creator and say, look, Creator, I'm asking for help. Show my husband, don't manipulate it, but send him energy. So, send him, I don't want to get involved because I want to be proactive. I don't want to be controlling, but at the same time, I want to send him energy. And talking to the Creator and sending energy to a situation is one of the most powerful ways to open it up, because pause and then ask the Creator for help is these two forces unstoppable. You can achieve anything you want with this. So, yeah.
Which kind of goes back to what you were saying, how many trust, right? That's like trusting their process also. Right?
You mean the husband or the children?
No, the
Us
husband.
trusting the husband's process.
Exactly.
Which goes back, you're saying what was the number one thing that's important to men is.
Exactly. And if you want to communicate with men, the worst thing to do is to make comments, right? To make flippant comments all the time. Oh, it's the worst. It makes your vibration go down. Nobody listens to comments. But the best thing to do is, pause, give love. But there's a moment you can look your husband in the eye when you don't feel upset. Say, I love you so much. You're so amazing. I respect you. I don't one thing is that when you do this action, I don't fully respect you.
It's really good.
But you say it. I mean, can you feel the energy of that? Yeah. As opposed to, why didn't you do this? Why? And it's just like thinking of that 26-year-old secretary who's always never making a comment. Never making a comment. Just working away. Never upset. By the way, when the mistress becomes the wife, she starts making comments. That's how it is. You're going. But the mistress knows. The mistress, she knows very well. How do I get him to like me? Never make a comment. Always show up positive. Trust and believe, right? That's how the mistress gets the guy.
Yeah.
Every movie is the same way. If the mistress was making comments, it'd be like, get out of the way. That's Never make comments, but don't suppress either. Just say, be positive, and then say, Creator, help me speak the right words at the right time, and then look him in the eyes and say, you're such an amazing man. I don't respect you when you leave your clothes on the floor. I just don't. But you're so amazing. I don't understand when you do that. Just look him in the eyes like, you're so incredible. You're so strong. You're handsome. It's like, I'm the luckiest woman in the world. But I lose 2% of respect when you don't clean up.
Can I just bring something up, because I think we're all married, and I think it's really important that when your husband comes home from work, he has time to like detox in the car. So they like come home, they're somewhat more fresh, but they come home to chaos, and your hair's all messed up, and the kids are screaming. So can you talk a little bit about that moment, like preparing when they get
I'm going to tell you something
thoughts.
that might sound a little odd, but something I've always noticed. When are we all, I think men are the same way, in the best shape of our lives? There's 2 times. Leading up to the wedding and 6 months after the divorce. I'm going to say it again. The best shape of our lives, men and women, right? Like the most vibrant you are, right? Where you're like your optimal weight and what you like. 6 months before the wedding, and then the 6 months after divorce. Is it true?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Some people like it when I say that, some people don't. But the point of the story is this. The point of the story is we should always feel like we are earning our other half every day. Every day should be like, oh my gosh, what do I, not from a needy servant suffering place, but like, what do I need to do? So my vibration is one, that vibration alone is one that's a giving vibration. And not from insecurity, not from fear, not from anything else, but just your power, your best you, right? Your best you is so important because otherwise it's not fair. It's not fair that once we marry someone, men too, by the way, you should see when I have the guys in the room, it's a whole nother, like, there's no freebie. They're not getting away with anything.
We should bring our guy.
Huh? Okay, I've asked for the guys to come. I've asked for the guys to come.
Mine won't come. Can you come to me?
Huh?
Mine won't come. Can you come to my house?
All the guys will eventually come once the vibration of the shifts. You know, like I used to say, my brother, I don't know if you know my brother never wanted to even walk foot into it. But his wife came. And after a year, he started to listen to the classes, and now he comes like twice a week. He's like fully in it. But it's just the energy. The woman controls the spiritual energy of the home. Oh yeah, okay, so about the divorce thing. My point is this. Don't ever just always invest in yourself the way you would if you were single.
Thank you.
That's it, really, you know what I mean? And by the way, it's a sharing thing to do. It's not about anything else. It's sharing. So, you know, would you want your daughter to lose herself in a also gives you self.
And they do it too.
Then they will do it. They will do it. Right? Yeah.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry, I talk a lot, you guys. How important is it for you to elevate yourself spiritually together as a couple versus just the woman? That's a good one.
The answer is, it's not important at all. Why? Because that's the only way you're going to get to the place where it happens, and yes, it is important. Meaning, if you now go home and say, oh, wish my husband was coming, you're already judging him?
No, there's no judgment on my end.
I know, I'm just saying what happens subconsciously. If I said the most important thing is that you do this together or you grow together, then we will always kind of size up our husband. We will wish they were a little more spiritual. We'll start to get into a place where right now, all you need to do is be with the light. Your husband's, huh? For yourself. Yeah. You need to have a relationship with the Creator where your source of energy is coming like this. And you're not taking from the world. You're not taking from your kids. You're not taking from your kids being successful. You're not taking from your friends.
Internal.
I'm sorry?
So it's internal.
It's gotta be internal. You're gonna be self-generating energy. Then you're the most powerful, untouchable woman who can touch you. If you're self-generating energy, that's it, you're done. Everywhere you go, people feel like, I want to be around you and spend time with you. No one wants to be around somebody who needs energy from them. Yes?
Do we have time for more questions? Or
I don't know what time you end. You end at 12 sharp, no?
One. I usually end at 1, but
Oh, I mean 1, yeah.
depending on pickup.
It's all you.
Let's do 5 more minutes if you want. Yeah.
Question on love languages. I don't know if that's something you subscribe to.
Yeah, of course, it is.
So I have a love language that's very different than my husband. I think most people do from what I've come to learn, and I think it's Hashem's way of us working on things that we need to work on. Right?
Sure.
But so what happens when you need love in a different way?
Then he's giving.
Then he's giving, and you know that he's giving it in the best way he can, but it really doesn't fuel your soul the way that you need, right? So are you to change your love language and try to be at the point where they are, because truly that's reversing probably your whole life? Or are you having them work on the way they express their love?
It's a great question. You should never reduce your desire or compromise what makes you happy. But there will always be something in your life that is so, you're gonna feel like almost like it's impossible, or you feel helpless, or you feel like everything you've tried doesn't work. Because what it's doing, that one area, is it's trying to break you, break your ego to the point where you really open yourself up to the light of the Creator. And I'll give you an example. There's a story, it's kind of like a fable, where this guy, he's a non-spiritual guy, and he meets this princess. And she's the most beautiful girl, but she's a princess. He goes up to her and he's like, you're the most beautiful girl, I feel like you're my soulmate. And she looks at him and says, I will never be with you unless it's like in the cemetery, like oh yeah, over my dead body type thing. So he said, well, she's gonna meet me in the cemetery. So every night he would go to the cemetery and he would wait for her. So listen to the story. But every night he didn't come, and he wanted so badly to be with her. And so every night he would come, and then all of a sudden he would cry and he would pray, and he's not scream, and then he would say like, oh, maybe I need to work on myself. And months went by, and every day he improved himself because he opened his heart and he cried and he begged and he improved himself. After a year went by, he reached such a high spiritual level that he realized like it wasn't even about the princess. It was about he had so much more joy and pleasure. He didn't have the insecurity and the fear and whatever. And it says he became one of the greatest in the generation. He met his soulmate, whatever. But what was the point of the princess? The point of the princess was that the light showed him something that he couldn't really have, but it forced him to go to the deepest parts of himself that he never went to. And by the time he got there, you understand the moral of the story?
Yeah.
There's different persons. So we all will always have an area of our life. It could be a child that's super difficult. It could be a health challenge that no doctor can figure out. It could be like the husband, that one thing with the spouse. You're like, I have a great marriage, but I just really wish. No matter what you do, it's like it just doesn't get it. But it's there to push you to become like the guy that just, okay, well, what else can I change? What else can I transform? How deeper can I pray? And by then you actually, you become, you finish your tikkun.
You don't form resentment that way. I think
That's
if
correct.
we can have that mentality where we're like, God wants us to dig deeper, then we're not resentful when we do.
That's right.
Like, I give. Well, maybe God wants us to dig deeper and not have that response right away or get that gratification right away. I love that.
That's right. The best thing that can happen to us is that we don't get what we want right away.
And we teach our kids to learn how to do it.
Right. I was actually studying today something about a therapist was teaching about children. Like when a child says something is like not fair, what parents try to do, like imagine you have siblings fighting, and once in a while, that's not fair, you got something, and you try to make it fair, or you try to make them share it back. So that's the worst thing to do because you're educating the child the wrong way. But it's more like you look at the child and say, I understand that I understand you're in pain. I'm not going to allow you to take that toy from your son and from your brother, but there will be a time that you'll get a toy. So you're almost like you don't have to give the instant gratification to the kids. You educate them to expand their vessel and become great. It's kind of like it was a nice concept. It even applies to children. Huh?
I mean, a therapist once told, because my boys are close in age and they would fight, like,
Yeah.
you bought him shoe, and a therapist once told me, just also tell them, life is not fair.
Right.
That's it's not fair. He's like, look him straight in the eye and say, life is not fair.
Right. Right.
Because no matter how much you try to keep one happy, there's always something, so
Right.
just give up.
Right. Right. Yep. Obviously, a lot we can talk about, but I think that's good for today.
Thank you.
I think one thing that could be helpful is if you give them the text.
Okay.
Give them the text, and I think it's the fact that you have this every week is incredible, and you should do it as much. You should make it a priority.
Yes,
If there's a way for them to hear Kabbalah 1 so they can all kind of get to the same place, give them it doesn't have to be the live one, give them the master class. You can listen to it at your own pace.
Okay.
You know which one I'm talking about? All right, great.
You guys did Kabbalah 1, but there's a few people who didn't.
There's a one we recorded professionally, which is I think the absolute best way to hear this content in a very deep step-by-step way.
How many hours is that?
It's 45 minutes a class. It's 10 classes.
Is it like a podcast?
It's like a podcast. It's an app. You just
Oh,
go
it's
to
an
it.
app.
Yeah, it's going to, and it's really professional. You can hear it as you're exercising or whatever. It's me. Thank you guys so much. Oh yeah, you mean the gas? Oh, you want them to come together?